global timing system in space, been incredibly successful, supports $1 billion worth of economic activity every day.
Just here in the United States. I don't know what it is worldwide,
right.
but that's just here in the United States.
That's right. And yet you can go out and buy a $300 unit and disrupt that signal any day of the week. And so the success has led to an incredible vulnerability.
From the Defense and Aerospace Report, this is The Downlink, a podcast about the intersection of space, the space business, and defense. Not just what's over the horizon, but what's happening above it. I'm your host, Laura Winter.
Did you know that Australia has a burgeoning quantum technology sector, or that it has already contributed to quantum technology development here in the U.S.? Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who is actually no slouch when it comes to deep tech and space systems, said this in February.
The story of the 21st century will be written by whichever nation can innovate the fastest. This generation's space race is unfolding with technologies invisible to the naked eye, where the winners and the losers will be separated by mere nanometers. What was once science fiction is now crucial to maintaining the United States' position as the world's leading economy. Technologies like this new chip I hold in the palm of my hand, the Mariana One Quantum Chip, are unlocking a new era of computing that will transform industries from healthcare to energy, solving problems that today's computers simply cannot. And I will note, by the way, Microsoft tells me this chip is worth $1 billion, so I very much hope I do not drop it, because my current employer is judgment-proof and $36 trillion in debt. This breakthrough is led by an American company and harnesses a new kind of matter to solve problems faster than ever before.
What Senator Cruz did not know was that Microsoft's chip was actually a product of a decade of work done by a team of Australian researchers out of the University of Sydney. That team chose to remain in Australia over joining Microsoft and moving to the United States. And now that team is a company called Emergence Quantum. In April, Emergence Quantum partnered with another Australian company called Deteqt to deliver on a quantum benchmarking initiative program contract with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. This week, Austrade and Quantum Australia released a quantum industry capability report. At the very same time, a delegation of Australian quantum companies are making the rounds here in the United States. I caught up with that delegation at the Quantum World Congress's annual meeting in McLean, Virginia. And like the senator from Texas, I zeroed in on the connection between quantum, defense, and space systems, both on the ground and on orbit. I met with representatives from Quantum Australia, which is a government-backed consortium of research institutions, industry partners, and government agencies, QuantX Labs, which focuses on high-precision timing and quantum sensor technologies, and with Deteqt, a startup that is a finalist for the 2025 Innovation Oz Awards Best Defense and Dual Use Technology. Deteqt is using quantum technology to develop magnetometers that can be used by submarines for navigation and weapons detection in a GPS-denied environment. Here's our conversation. Hello, Martin, Jim, Daniel. Welcome to the Downlink podcast.
It's great to be here, Laura.
Great to be here, Laura. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Laura. Great to be here.
Now, let's start with a quick round of introductions. And Martin O'Connor, you're the Chief Operating Officer of QuantX Labs. Why don't you go first? So give us the basics on QuantX, what it does, especially for space systems, if you please. How long have you been doing it, where you're located, and how many people have you got working?
Sure, Laura. So we're a hardware quantum company building products. We've got 40 people at our base in Adelaide, Australia. We've been around for 10 years, spun out of the University of Adelaide, and our big, audacious goal is to securely synchronize the globe from the ocean floor to the satellites in space and everywhere in between to provide resilient, high-performance timing solutions to drive digital networks into the future.
Fabulous. And Jim Rabeau, you are the CEO and co-founder of Deteqt. That is Deqt. There's no letter C in there. I've got the same starting question for you. What does Deteqt do, and in particular for space systems? When did you establish the company? Where are you located? And how many people have you got under your roof?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the factual questions first. I quit my last job a year ago, and so Deteqt has been in existence for 1 year. We're based in Sydney, Australia, and we have 9 people now. So we've grown from 0 to 9 in a year.
That's what, 900% growth?
Yeah, don't make me do math on this on the fly. What we do is we're using tiny diamond crystals that are sensitive to magnetic fields because of the atoms that are inside them. And we're connecting those by literally attaching the diamond on top of a semiconductor chip, a CMOS chip, same kind of chip that you have in your phone, computers. And together, those two things enable us to read out what that magnetic field is very sensitively and very stably at levels that are not available today. So the way I like to convey this is that we're bringing quantum to the world. We're making quantum mainstream by hooking onto the semiconductor superhighway. This is a really strong manufacturing opportunity for us. So chip scale quantum sensors. And what are those good for? Well, we can measure magnetic fields. And I have to say that space is still a little bit on the longer horizon for us, but essentially the same things that we're doing here on planet Earth, like navigation using magnetic field domains underground, measuring things in the mining context to identify mineral resources. These are all equally big opportunities in space, and the beauty of our system, and I'll finish here. The beauty of our system is that it's all solid state. Diamond is radiation hard, very robust to extreme environments, and so it makes it perfectly suited to go into space and survive and actually do the things we want it to do in space in a similar way, navigation and mineral resource discovery.
We're going to get into that business case in just a bit, so hold that thought, right? And lastly, Daniel Hunter, you are representing Quantum Australia. You're an interesting organization backed by Australia's Department of Industry, Science and Resources, state governments, and I believe 13 university partners. So what is Quantum Australia really, and what's its mission?
Thank you, Laura. I'm glad you asked. So Quantum Australia is the National Centre for Quantum Industry Growth in Australia. As you mentioned, we're backed by the government and some of the state governments and various universities.
Kind of does what it says on the tin, right?
Exactly. It's in the name as well. But essentially, we're there to accelerate the growth of the quantum ecosystem in Australia. And that includes all the way from high school and university education, researchers in academia, most importantly, in my opinion, industry as well, and also educating government on the different advantages that developments in quantum technology can bring to the table. And we also look to position Australia as a global leader in the quantum technology field.
You make that sound as if that's something in the future. From what I've been reading, like in the Financial Times and other places, you guys already are positioned as a leader in quantum technology in the world. I mean, I'm not just trying to be cute and nice here, but you have actually been working or Australia has been working in quantum since at least the late 1990s, no?
Yes, I would agree with that. I should say we're looking to further position Australia's position as a global leader in quantum technology, and many of the leaders in various areas of quantum technology have come as researchers out of some of the Australian universities over the past 30 or so years. And we're just looking to further capitalize on that great wealth of talent and development of new technology that we've established in Australia.
So, Daniel, I want to stick with you here because this week, the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, which we lovingly call as Austrade, released a Quantum Australia report, right? It's detailing your country's quantum capabilities. And because your organization has been working with Austrade for this report, the focus is on exports. So I've got to ask, what do Americans in general and American space organizations, whether they be government or commercial, what's the key takeaway for them in this report?
Thanks, Laura. We were very excited to launch it on Monday night at the Australian Ambassador's residence, where Ambassador Kevin Rudd came out and said a few words and officially launched the report, which was very exciting. We had a great evening of canapes and some drinks there, so that was a lot of fun. But in terms of what government and industry can take away from the report in the US, it just really shows the depth and breadth of the quantum capabilities in Australia. It gives a bit of a taste of the different quantum-related businesses that we have there. So, and also the research institutions, different labs. It really is a one-stop report for people who are interested in finding out about what's happening in Australia in the quantum industry. And a lot of that technology has a lot of applications to space and defense, as I'm sure your audience is well aware.
Okay, let's give them some stats here, though, right? I have a cheat sheet, so I can do this kind of thing. But there are more than 40 quantum-related businesses, 26 dedicated quantum research organizations, more than 60 academic research groups conducting cutting-edge work, and 53 specialized facilities and labs advancing quantum R&D. I didn't just make that up. That is from the report, just to let you know. So I've got to reveal to you guys and the audience that this is the second Australian Deteqt trade delegation I run into this year. In June, it was South Australia Space and Defence Companies. And now lightning has struck again with you lot, with Australian space and quantum companies. But before we get into what you are doing here on our shores, I want to understand the business cases of your businesses. You are both sort of playing into a similar technology vertical, but your offerings are different. And you both have contracts with your Department of Defense, which is also known as Defence Australia. So what are your main products, that either connect with space systems or even take the place of space systems that Defence Australia is most interested in? And please do give an example, a use case, right? And Martin, as you represent the most established company, why don't you go first?
Okay, thanks, Laura. So our business case is centered around two key problems that have emerged for society. First one is the GPS system is a global timing system in space, been incredibly successful, supports $1 billion worth of economic activity every day.
Just here in the United States. I don't know what it is worldwide, right. But that's just here in the United States.
That's right. And yet you can go out and buy a $300 unit and disrupt that signal any day of the week. And so the success has led to an incredible vulnerability. At the same time, us humans are incredible at generating more complicated networks so that we can support AI prompts in ChatGPT or data centers, scaling them so they're everywhere around the globe. Power networks that we all want to generate power on our roofs and feed it into the grid. All these things make networks more complicated, more easy to jam, more easy to steal data from, personal data. And these two issues are supported by timing infrastructure. That's one of the fundamental critical parts of the system that supports the enablement of these technologies. And the problem is that the incumbent solutions in timing and atomic clocks haven't changed for the last 30 or 40 years. And so that's where we come in. So we're using laser light. Our core technology is using laser light to measure time, and to measure time more accurately than it's ever been done before in a package, in a form factor that can be much smaller, much cheaper, and unlock billions of dollars worth of business, into the future.
And where do these small packages, if you will, where do they end up? I mean, when you say small package, what do you really mean by small package?
So actually this is, you can look back in time to when broadband revolutionized optical communications. So back in the early 2000s. Before that, we were using copper wire to transmit data. And if you wanted to download a Netflix video, didn't exist then, it would have taken them, a whole week or something.
Well,
now
14.4, nothing moved.
That's right. And so that industrialization of optical communications has driven really small package lasers, optical fiber systems, all of the fundamental components that we're just redeploying into atomic clock products.
But where would these things be found? I mean, especially with defense systems.
That's right. So any network server rack, they're existing on satellites, on radar installations to be able to synchronize radar capability. Anywhere where you've got an IT system, you have at the heart of it a timing, a grandmaster clock that provides that initial handshake before you can exchange data, communications, sensor information, just like we meet here today, arriving at the same time, introducing ourselves, shaking hands. It's exactly the same as that first data initiation sequence, which requires time to be able to share safely data.
Well, I would believe that your clocks are probably more accurate than us.
That's right.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, Jim, right, you are from the upstart company Deteqt. And I say upstart because you're really new and you're doing stuff, right? How is your company shaking things up? What is Deteqt really offering to defense, and what will it change in terms of defense and space systems?
I'm going to sort of come at this in a slightly different way, give some context. Firstly, for the audience, the globe, the world, we're surrounded by magnetic fields everywhere. And magnetic fields are leveraged in some very clever ways already, like on computer hard disks. Medical diagnostics often leverage magnetic or electric fields from the human body. Navigation, the humble compass uses the magnetic field of the Earth to point north and south. And, I can't help but reference nature in this. Birds, turtles, other animals incredibly leverage not just the north and south magnetic fields, but can discern. So turtles, when they hatch, they can discern and imprint a map essentially of the magnetic domain. So these are like the features that are very weak, much weaker than the polar north and south signal. Maybe 1,000 or more times. They can imprint this kind of map somehow. They can navigate around the globe and they can find their way back to where they were hatched, within some margin.
And that's through magnetic fields and being sensitive to them so that they don't have to pull out a map and find their particular, bay.
It's not really understood how animals fully understood how animals do it. And I'm actually taking just a slice of this for the narrative, but they have the ability to measure the signal and somehow learn and know where they need to find themselves. It's just remarkable, actually, and like I said, not fully understood. However, what it points to is that in the Earth's crust, there are features that are essentially like a roadmap of magnetic fields. And that's just one example. Like I said, magnetic fields are everywhere. So Deteqt, our big vision is, how do we see the world through a new lens? Let's think about seeing the world through a new lens, opening up, the peepholes into magnetic fields that we currently have, and seeing magnetic fields in a more holistic way. And what information can we glean, and how can we leverage that? So this is the long horizon, and why and how we can get there is by our chip scale technology. We can make them small enough and eventually cheap enough that they can be ubiquitous. To get there now, closer to answering your question, and Martin, the first point that he made around the burning platform of GPS and the fact that satellites can be rendered useless very easily, and they will be. And this is a major defense issue globally, and it's naturally is something that an early stage startup needing to prove out the technology, needing a customer to buy and help de-risk the technology and get it out in the field. This is our first market. So we do have a defense contract, and we're looking to engage with companies to help us integrate our magnetometer to be able to follow that map that's under our feet that the turtles use, And so that's the first port of call. And
It's interesting you mentioned port of call because of the research that I did. I look you guys up and see what you do. But there seems to be a real need for this for submarines and for airplanes as well, but really for submarines so that they don't have to resurface, right? Am I correct on that?
yeah, that's right. I mean, we talk about GPS denial in the sense, often in the sense of a military context where satellites are knocked out of action, so you don't have GPS on the ground. But when you go underwater, you don't have access, you don't have line of sight to satellites anyway. So submarines have been dealing with this forever, right? And so how do they deal with that? Well, they use something called inertial navigation, which essentially it's a fairly old technology in many ways. Just you start at a known point that they measure by GPS. They go underwater, and then they have these sensors, accelerometers and gyroscopes to just measure how is that submarine mass moving in space, and then they sort of add that up, and you can actually tell, the movement just by F equals ma, essentially, which is force equals mass times acceleration. Now, what happens over time is that there is a bigger and bigger and bigger error in where they think they are. So that error gets bigger and bigger, and that then dictates how long they can stay underwater. It's called the mission time. So then they have to porpoise. That's the term, the defense term for like coming up to the surface, ping GPS, and then they can go back down and reset. Now, extending the mission time by a factor of 10 is incredibly valuable for defense. So how can we help them do that? And the answer is to use something like a magnetometer, which does work underwater and could potentially extend that mission time so they can stay hidden or just operationally less expensive. So that's one of the surface Earth-based applications, but equally it's similar things in space, navigation, and like I mentioned earlier, the mining context.
Thank you. Now, I've got a simple question that may not have a simple answer. What are you doing in the United States, right? Because I am very aware that we here in the United States, and especially inside the Beltway, do not seem to realize how much Australian quantum technology development actually underpins my nation's development of quantum, right? I just read in the Financial Times and in innovationoz.com recently that while a certain Texas senator doesn't really get it, Microsoft certainly does. And that if I'm not mistaken, Professors David Riley and Thomas Oakey, and if I'm saying your names wrong, I apologize, but their team out of the University of Sydney, they were critical to the development of Microsoft's Majorana 1 chip, which allegedly will make quantum computing more practical in years and not decades. So yeah, what are you guys hoping to get out of this trip? And what should my audience, which is mostly here in the United States, what should they understand about what you have to offer for U.S. defense and space systems? And who are you meeting with?
Yeah, so Adelaide is a long way away from a lot of different places, and we want our company to have global impact. We want to have a legacy of this new atomic clock technology that we've invented, and to be able to do that, we need to mix it with the big players, the big organisations and companies, and most of them are in the States. And so our aim is to establish a beachhead in the US, to really build a team here, to really partner with investors, with customers, to be able to grow our company so that we can really provide a solution to the globe for our atomic clocks. So we're meeting with all sorts of people through that ecosystem to go from establishing a corporation, legal, management consultants, places in Maryland, where are we going to set up? Investors. If we're moving 1 or 2 people here, we want to do that with a first contract. There's no point coming here just meeting people. We need to actually be generating some value. So partnerships, trying to do all that at the same time. And at the end of the day, just make friends. At the end of the day, it's about people. It's about being here, being present. And it's a long way away from Adelaide. So we need to take the opportunity when we are here to meet as many people as we can. But we've got a goal within the next year to set up, to establish a corporation in the US and probably on the East Coast.
And would that be in Southern Maryland?
Could be.
Just because
being sold on Maryland.
Well, the University of Maryland has quite a lab, and they have spin-offs out of there as well.
I must say, I have been
an interesting place.
Definitely sold on Maryland in the last few days. It's close to Virginia. There's a lot of defence there. There's a lot of primes, defence primes. We've been here talking to Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing. There's a lot of government organisations here, close to some of the network providers as well. And there's a lot of investor ecosystem around this side of the US as well. So,
and it's close to the Australian Embassy in Washington, D.C., which has a reputation of having some pretty good parties, I have to say.
Definitely.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So, all right. What about for Deteqt? What about you guys? What are you guys doing?
Well, I just want to jump in and make an argument for the West Coast that like there is that extra flight and the layover to get here, which actually takes its toll because it's quite a way to Australia. Nevertheless, look, I think that what Martin said, exactly the same thing. We're not planning to incorporate here necessarily anytime soon, but like I said, like we've covered, we're a younger company, but
so then your mission here would be different. Right?
Well, it isn't really because it's all about strategy and business, right? We are wanting to commercialize the technology. So why do we care about the US? Why not stay in Australia? Why not go to the UK? I mean, it's there's a bit of all of the above, but you have a limited bandwidth and resources, and the timing of things is crucial. A couple of points. I mean, one of them is, what are we doing that is unique that we can find complementary partners, whether they're supply chain inputs that will help us accelerate our product to market, or whether they're end users, like defense is a big one, right? I mean, it's a huge opportunity for us to get in if we have a footprint here in the United States. But not just that, there's other non-defense end use cases that we can develop. So there's a huge market opportunity, both upstream and downstream for us from a business point of view, but also we're in the middle of raising venture capital right now, and that's a big part of what I'm doing right now is talking to investors, and investors in the US are well aware of the quantum companies and capability in Australia, and have been, they come over and talk to us, and so there's definitely a desire to build those relationships, and even if it's not an investment that will happen right now, it might be in a future round, but again, like Martin said, people, relationships, connections, and so on.
Now, I just want to make sure, just because Daniel here has been pretty quiet, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I would love to add a couple of quick points from the Quantum Australia angle. And I guess our mission over here is a little different to the companies. I mean, part of the mission of this delegation is for us to put the companies front and center and really showcase what they can do and help them forge those connections that Jim and Martin have mentioned, but also to help sort of build the brand of Quantum Australia internationally as the front door for quantum in Australia. And so any international organizations or people within the government or defense can come to us, and we can help filter them to the right stakeholders in Australia who they might be interested in talking to. And I'd be remiss to not give a plug to the Quantum Australia conference that we roll out each year. This year it was in Brisbane and attracted around 750 attendees. Next year it will be in Adelaide on the 28th of April, I believe the 28th to the 30th of April. And we're hoping for around 1,000 plus, which will include, hopefully all, but if not most of the Australian quantum ecosystem, as well as some international guests as well.
Space is a session.
Huge.
Fleet is giving a talk, I believe. Sorry to steal your thunder, Daniel.
So Fleet are giving a talk there, and I was going to say that Adelaide is one of the hubs for space companies in Australia, and even defense as well. And there's a lot of great companies based there that I dare say will be at the conference as well. And there'll also be, for the international guests coming over, we are planning to run some networking and visiting to some of the beautiful wineries that South Australia has to offer, just in case that, helps get people over the line.
It's always a party with the Aussies. Now, I need to wrap this up because we are definitely running out of time. I want to turn to the future, right? And Martin, I want to toss this last question to you first. It's been said to me that quantum technologies will radically change the digital ecosystem. Do you agree? And if yes, how so for space systems? And when I'm talking about space systems, these systems aren't just on orbit, right? They're here on Earth, which is why the atomic clocks, right? So what is the future that you see?
Yeah, so I think they described the future of the internet in terms of the quantum internet. It's the next version of the internet. And our company sits kind of at the base layer of that, sort of on the infrastructure layer, providing a timing mesh. And so you think of this in terms of time is a global problem. You know, anywhere you are on the globe, you need to maintain that same time. And we do that now, and part of doing that is using space. It's a natural way to connect the globe. You know, you've got satellites moving around the globe, and it's a natural way to connect the world through communication and time. And so our contribution to that is creating that mesh of secured time to be part of that quantum internet, to be able to support the secure transmission, maintenance, memory of that data that links both the ground and the space systems into the future.
And Jim, I want to give you the last word here because you are a serial entrepreneur, which takes an iron gut, a gut of steel, one of the two, I don't know, but that's a lot. And Deteqt just recently inked an agreement with Fleet Space, right? And now I realize this agreement starts with mining operations here on Earth. But in the press release that I read, Fleet Space said it was hoping to take the technology that comes out of this partnership to places like the moon and to asteroids. So to think expansively, maybe a decade from now, maybe sooner, maybe farther off, I really would feel terrible to try and predict that. But are you aiming for Deteqt to be part of the off-world ecosystem, like those kinds of operations? You know, what do you see?
That's a great question. So we've announced a partnership with Fleet, and we're in the process of inking a deal that will see us piloting our sensor technology with their fleet of sensors. And Fleet's an interesting company because they're measuring things here on the ground, and they're leveraging satellites to aggregate data and then feed that back to Earth and create really insightful pictures of underground. And if you look at
actually for mining concerns,
for
like
mining.
Rio Tinto, right? And that's no small thing. So
correct. I mean, there's a big. I mean, especially as resources underground are harder and harder to find, right? So they got to look deeper and greater sensitivity and so on. I think that for us, it's a great opportunity to piggyback onto their technology and how they're deploying it, testing and deploying our technology in their fleet of sensors. And what they're trying to do is augment the sensing modalities that they have access to. I mean, the original question you asked is quantum transforming the digital ecosystem?
The digital ecosystem, but I am thinking about space. And what I found so interesting is that when you take a look at Fleet's plans, not tomorrow plans, but not so far distant either, right? That they are talking about the moon. They are talking about looking, for resources on asteroids without having to crack the asteroid open first, right?
Yeah, their vision, it's amazing on their website if you go. I mean, their vision is to
right up, Deteqt's,
Their vision is to go to space and actually, solve some of the resource challenges that we have on Earth by tapping into what is out there, whether it's on the moon or asteroids.
For the space economy, because we don't want to use rockets to take materials up, actually, because the swap options for that aren't very nice, right? So getting resources off-world is actually a key component of what friends of mine will call the fifth industrial revolution, which is an in-space economy. But your technology would be, I would see it as a huge part of that.
The small swap, the small size, weight, and power potential of our device, but it's a great stepping stone. So starting here with Fleet, building things that are going to work here for mining companies on Earth, and then moving into LEO and beyond, to identify and make use of resources that we currently don't have access to. So it's a really exciting opportunity for us as a young company. We want to demonstrate value and differentiation, give value to the end user. So this is a great opportunity for us to partner with another Australian company and demonstrate that.
All right. Well, hey, Jim, Martin, Daniel, thank you guys so much for making the time to come on the Downlink podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Laura. It's been a blast.
That's it for this week. For your daily dose of award-winning defense coverage, listen to the Defense and Aerospace Report with Vago Muradian. And for the maritime domain, listen to Cavis Ships with Chris Cavis and Chris Cervello, and get your air domain news and analysis from the Air Power Podcast with JJ Gertler and Vago Muradian. I'm Laura Winter. Thank you for listening.